Today I'm going to be sharing about addiction, and the most accessible exit from addiction is the link between feeling and craving. So I got a lot of this from the Buddhist pathways, and meditating with monks and reading some books from them. I found it to be truly helpful. So feeling is the mind going toward craving, like something's missing. There's ownership, there's a sense of identity, and there's hope. It's the universe shrinks to a single desired object, or all else is screened out. The feeling of good, oh, I like it, or bad, I dislike it, going toward the craving of I want, or I can't stand or bear it, is what disrupts harmony. And so absorption creates commitment and pattern repetition. The birthing becoming fully consumed, but subsequent resentment. So there's an alienation, an insecurity, a dependence, a lack, an incompleteness, regret and disappointment, self-hatred. Reduces mindfulness, feeds off ignorance, and is unsustainable. Blocks clarity and is a blame mentality. We're more susceptible to the next wave of addiction. The max thrill is when it's imminent, not when we actually use or receive it, but the moment before. There's also a book, a Buddhist book, maybe, I forget the writer. I got a lot of this from there as well. After we acquire or rant about irritation, there's an immediate ache of unfulfillment, and we begin to berate ourselves for our weaknesses. The addictive process is connected to what we do when we meet suffering. There's dependent origination and dependent cessation. Meditation helps because by watching the reactive, instinctual, and non-conceptual parts of our being, we can free the heart as we see the working mechanisms. Desire is a lie, nothing is missing. There's mental impulses that are unreliable. The bridge between feeling and craving is the critical place, and hearing the mind's case, but not listening, is helpful for building confidence. Plus, it yields freedom and happiness. So, the lack of clarity and awareness is the seed for subject-object division versus subjectless, objectless states. Letting go of the known, the knower separation is a simplicity and a spaciousness, bright alertness and attunement. And as soon as mindfulness drifts, potential for like and dislike, or want, don't want, the world starts to shrink and the heart goes into discord and disharmony. And we start to believe that all is not the way it should. And once we give into craving, we then need another, or not to lose it to feel complete. It can be wholesome, unwholesome, subtle or coarse, or clinginess, attachment, dependence. Jumping off the train before it speeds up lessens harm, but not getting on at all in the first place is best. Paying attention to what makes us want to is integration. And we can observe with gratitude the change in attitude that results from being stronger than the formations of desire for other. And since cessation itself means checking, restraining, non-arising, instead of blind trust in sensory world of subject-object division, we can perceive how the world happens in the mind. Non-entanglement, deeper context, no more me here and the world out there. We can jump off the train before it speeds up to lessen the harm, but not getting on at all in the first place is best. So we pay attention to what makes us want to. That's integration. And we can observe with gratitude the change in attitude that results from being stronger than the formations of desire for other. I just had to go through that again because of cessation. There's two sides of this. What arises and what is stopping. So impulses can be nonverbal, hormonal, reactive. There's gratification and indulgence, or aggression and competition. The gratification and indulgence is or there could also be property ownership or fear of threats, or revenge or punishment. So these are examples of what made it better last time becomes what makes it better, and what felt good last time becomes what feels good. The shortcuts in the brain. And societal position, gender, habituation, identification with social roles, and more all play a part. And clarity is no one no one thing can be truly who or what I am. Moment by moment, genuine mindfulness application is required, and there's agency, which is tremendous resources, capacities, and choices versus the lazy victimhood of lack, inabilities, or optionlessness. Reflecting on suffering is faith in an alternative. There's a way out. Doesn't always have to be this way. And until the pain of attachment is clear, we won't let go, because suffering can ripen in two ways: one, further suffering, and one, in search of relief. Proximate cause, or transcendental dependent origination. What's the proximate cause of faith? Or faith arises from suffering as the liberation, suffering to faith, to ease and delight and gladness, to contentment, to concentration, to truth and liberation through the insights into reality. So with sufficient world weariness, wisdom, we wonder finally how to stop repeating the habits of suffering and to look for a way out. This suffering awakens faith and doesn't condition more ignorance or rebirths. Rather than running away from suffering, let it in. We go to it, let it flourish. Opening to painful areas lets the habits be broken and dissolved, and it strengthens our wisdom. Pragmatism is the subtle, gradual way to release compulsions, substituting a destructive obsession with a wholesome, or at the very least, harmless one will be enough to achieve some contentment, plus give space to obsess over something benign. This is also a diversion of the impulse, the craving energy, which lessens the harm as it chews on things that don't cause us suffering or pain. Not every desire is inherently unwholesome. The desire for wisdom, awakening, light, and enlightenment isn't unskillful, like the sense desire cravings, which include agitation, imbalance, non-mindfulness, self-centeredness, and is actually a prerequisite for any kind of spiritual development or effort towards success. Differentiating desires, skillful ones, from self-centered or agitated cravings depends on the heart's attitude. Wholesome desires which don't have a self-centered narcissistic focus of I want, I need, or me and mine have either restraining unwholesome from arising, or letting go of unwholesome already arisen, or consciously brings wholesome into being, or protects, cherishes, maintains wholesome already arisen, and do not have the becoming quality, alienation, and difficulty in staying in harmony. So the emotion's role is to allow us to explore our tendencies. It's hard to establish clarity when we're lost in a triggered emotion, but it helps to practice learning accompanying the physical sensations. And we can notice the mind chasing a flow of emotions, which can be utilized by deliberately focusing on body sensations versus the stimulus, like where do I feel it, how does it feel? And we can learn to avoid the should and shouldn't, or taking it personally, being unable to discern properly when we're overwhelmed. The degree to which we can accept the bodily feelings reflects our acceptance of our emotions. The more we can, the more we can integrate and explore and stay grounded. It's important to stick with it for the whole cycle of experiencing generated feelings all the way through to releasing the emotion, to see how the feeling came from nothing and went back to nothing, which helps prevent getting drowned in intimidation or feeling uncontrolled, like out of control. That which knows this is a feeling is more me and safer, something human beings experience, part of nature. More compassion for the self and others comes out of that. And when we stay with the feeling versus when we cling to it, a huge rock isn't heavy until you try to lift it. And finally, we become somebody able to say this is liking or this is disliking. An ownerless nature, pattern as flow of perception. This is what it feels like to like. This is what it feels like not to like.